All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our two-part college readiness panel series. This is part two today. I'm joined by several current college students and recent graduate students so they can talk about their experiences in college life and share their advice and insights with all of our participants and our audience members. Thank you to all of our representatives and panelists for joining, and also thank you to our audience. If you have any questions at all during the panel, please do feel free to share them in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself. And I'll give everyone a chance, all of our panelists, a chance to introduce yourself, speak a little bit about tell us a little bit more about yourselves. And we'll start with Sophia.
Hi everyone, my name is Zofia. I graduated from Tottenville High School last year. I was in the dental program and now I am a soon-to-be sophomore at Hunter College, where I'm following a pre-dental track and majoring in biochemistry.
I'm with Zoe. I graduated last year from Tonneville High School as well. We were both in the dental program, and I'm a soon-to-be sophomore at Wagner College. And right now, majors, I'm still figuring it out, but pre-dental track as well.
So. Yeah, I know typically the way it works in undergraduate is you have until the first semester of your sophomore year to declare a major. So you have time before you decide. Thanks for joining.
Hi, I'm Jessica. So I'm a recent graduate. I graduated from college in 2019 from undergrad and then went on to grad school. I majored in speech pathology.
Great, thank you. We all have some pretty heavy sort of science panelists, but I'm totally with you. I majored in biology when I was in undergrad and I graduated in just last year in 2020. All right, so I'd like to first ask all of you what made you decide what college to attend ultimately. Like what factors did you consider in your decision to choose where you ended up going? We'll start with Jessica.
So I knew I wanted to major in speech when I was first applying to school. I was between education and speech. So I kind of applied to every school that offered one or both. And then by the time actual acceptances came around, I had decided fully on speech, which narrowed down my choices because out of the 7 schools I got into, I think only 3 or 4 of them had a speech program. So then it was looking at, and I knew I didn't want to go far. So all the schools I applied to were either on Staten Island or in Lower Manhattan. And then it came down to really the feel of the school and also money. So I got scholarships to CSI and St. John's that would cover my tuition. So I was between there. And then I went to open houses at both, which helped a lot. And I also, at St. John's, they offered shadow days. So I went to St. John's and I got to shadow a student who was currently a freshman and while I was still in high school, and get to see what day-to-day life was like at the school and really see what happens in college. What is this actually like? What are the professors like? I was introduced to professors. And then CSI, similarly, they had a separate accepted students day for students in the honors program. But then I felt like CSI was really big, the classes, and I am not a people person. I don't like large groups. And then St. John's just felt more homey. It was a small campus on Staten Island, and they had speech as a program. So that's how I ended up choosing.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, you have to find the factors that attract you and what makes you feel most comfortable, because college is a big undertaking. You're going to be spending 4 years, if not more, at this institution. You want to find a place that does feel right with your personality, fits well. So thank you for sharing. What about you, Sophia? What made you decide to go to Hunter?
Well, for me, there was never a kind of a dream undergrad school because I knew I always wanted to go to dental school, so it seemed more of a stepping stone. And I kind of just looked at all of the local schools, mainly CUNYs and SUNYs. So I looked at Stony Brook and Binghamton, Baruch, CSI, and Hunter. And then I always heard that Hunter was more oriented towards the sciences, and in that moment, I kind of felt like that's where I should be. But, my opinion now has changed from that. But at the end of the day, I just kind of considered it. I went to an open house. It seemed decent enough, and then the tuition was also a pretty big factor just because of how expensive grad school is, especially dental school. And I knew that just taking out excessive loans, it wasn't the smartest financial decision considering I would be taking out loans in the future. So that kind of played a really big part for me. And it was also in the city, and I kind of feel that, so I live in New York, I've always went to school in Staten Island. I kind of wanted to just go to school in the city for now. And I ended up liking it, and that's kind of how I picked my college.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. What about you, Dorina? What made you decide on Wagner?
Well, I was gonna decide CSI in the beginning, but when I got into Wagner, I realized that I liked it a little bit more better because I knew so many people going to CSI, and I felt like it was just gonna be another Tonneville high school. Like it was just gonna be high school for me. If I everywhere I went, I just saw the same kids. So I wanted a different environment, and I loved Wagner and its scenery and all the classes and everything I've heard from people I knew going there. It just sounded amazing. And then I got a scholarship from them, and that also made it a big factor for me as well. So that's why I picked Wagner. It was just a better option for me if I really wanted to focus on getting into dental school.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think college definitely is a great experience to learn more and then also have more experiences, branch yourself out a little bit. So having meeting new people definitely helps in that degree. So I can see how that decision was probably the right one for you. I kind of also want to know what all of your favorite part of college is so far, at least for you, Sophia and Dorina, since you've been in college for 1 year, and also Jessica, what was your favorite part? And we can have Dorina kick us off.
I guess my favorite part of Wagner was just how very quiet it seems. Like I liked how everywhere you went, it was just peaceful and you could just sit down, drop your stuff, and study wherever you want. So that was my favorite part. And I could go all over the campus and just sit down. No one would bother you, and you would it was just, I don't know, I liked it. And the professors were also the best part because they weren't too strict on anything. They really did help with a lot of the problems that I had with the classes and such. So I guess that was my favorite part, just dropping everything and studying wherever and the professors.
Was your semester in person or virtual or hybrid?
Some of my classes were in person, some of them were I had hybrid, yeah. So some in person, some online, but that was also another good part because I couldn't do it all online. I'm not the best person to study online.
I can totally understand that. What about you, Sophia? What is so far your favorite part about college?
For me, my whole entire semester was online, the whole entire year actually. So the only time I was ever on campus was just to get my ID card, and my school offered library slots where you can kind of just go and study, but no classes for me personally were held in person. So my favorite part was just going there and catching up on some homework or studying because it made me feel like I was actually in school, because when I was at home, it was just, me at my desk in my room, and it didn't really feel like I was productive sometimes. So I like that change of scenery. And from our views, we had really, from our library, we had really great views of the whole entire city. And I really, really liked that because it just made me feel a little bit more productive. So I guess that would have been my favorite part thus far, since I haven't really experienced college, I guess you could say, yet.
Yeah, that's great. I could relate to that. I mean, I went to CSI, so in our library, the greatest views were just of the CSI campus itself. But there are some nice places. It's a pretty big campus. It's out of all the communities, it's the one that has the actual most campus environment. So that was one of my reasons actually for choosing CSI. What about you, Jessica? What was your favorite part about both undergraduate and graduate?
So for undergrad, I really liked St. John's just because it felt like home. It's like one giant family there. I could just walk into student life and just like walk into the office and be like, hey, so I need help with this, or what's going on here. And they made sure to really like help. It was also a good mix. It was mainly a commuter school, but then there was the dorms there, and there was international students who I became friends with, and students from all around the country. So I liked meeting people from different places and going out with them, getting to show them the city, because St. John's would offer really cheap Broadway tickets sometimes. They would be like nosebleed sections, but I mean, $20 to see Wicked, I'll take it. No matter where we're sitting. So it was fun though, then to be able to go out, and it was still part of school. You could go into any office and everyone got to know you, even professors that you would never have would get to know you. So that's what I liked about St. John's. For grad school, I went to Hunter, so I definitely see what Sophia's talking about with the library. I wasn't at the main campus much because the one semester I was in person, we were at a separate campus for speech path. But I did get to go to the main campus a couple of times. With that, I mean, grad school is really tough and it's very different from undergrad because it's not like core classes, it's a lot more rigorous. But I did like that we were like one cohort and we had like our own study spaces and all. Like our clinic was just like our home base. So you always had some place to go.
Very cool, very nice. And sort of to like flip to the other side, what was your least favorite part about both undergrad and grad? And then also Zofia and Dorino, when we get to you, let us know what your so far least favorite part about college is.
Least year for undergrad definitely is, so on the flip side of it feeling like home and it being everyone knowing you, everyone knew you. Everyone knew what was going on. So if something happened, rumors spread fast. And it also meant that because we were a smaller campus for extracurriculars, everyone had big ideas, everyone had great ideas, but there's only so much you could do. All clubs met at the same time twice a week. So you want to be involved in 20 different things, but all 20 things are happening at the same time. So it's a lot of competing to try and figure out, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to this event here, or do you want to join this club, or do you want to try that? And it's kind of overwhelming at times because then it's like, well, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I'm friends with this one and I want to go to their club that they started, but then also this other club where I don't know anyone sounds really interesting. So trying to figure that out. For grad school, least favorite part is probably just the amount of work. Grad school's very difficult. um it was, and especially now with COVID, with everything being online, it's really hard to focus at home, especially when a lot of the work is normally hands-on and now it's being transitioned to virtual. That was really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine sometimes trying to make something work from like in person to virtual doesn't always land well, especially something that is supposed to be like hands-on, like even like lab classes, for example. From what I've heard, it's an interesting sort of transition. What about you, Sophia? What so far has been your least favorite thing about college? What's something you would like to change or wish could change?
Um, well, for me, I kind of, like I said before, I picked an undergrad that I felt would fit me best. And it was at the time I thought, well, if I want to be a dentist, I have to be super involved in sciences. And Hunter had that. They are a very, very competitive science school. But I kind of realize now that that may not have been the best decision because everyone that I've encountered and met is either pre-med or pre-pharmacy or something in the medical field, and that creates such a huge level of competition. But it's to the point where it's not a healthy competition. It's people, trying so desperately to get ahead with this or get ahead with that. And I just kind of feel that it limits a true sense of help. So the only people you can really count on are your professors, but they're not always very, very available, and you're teaching yourself most of the material anyway, and they're more of a mentor to you instead of a professor. So I found that to be very, very challenging, especially in an online setting where we're not navigating anything as a class. It's just completely on your own. And if you have a problem, you have to email them, but they're getting hundreds and hundreds of emails. So they may not reply to you today, tomorrow, or even at all. So it's just the environment of how everyone is pre-med and everything is just about the pre-health field. So it's always about internships to this hospital or internships to that hospital, and everyone's just kind of competing for the same thing. But luckily for me, since I'm pre-dental, not that many people that I encountered were pre-dental. So I was kind of able to find a smaller group of students, and it was a lot more genuine than just being in the whole pre-med community. So I kind of dislike how this, and the school kind of encourages the competition, but they don't necessarily help with it, if that makes sense. Like they'll, say, oh, we get emails from the pre-health department, and it's kind of a first come first serve thing. So it's all introduced to everyone at the same exact time, and then whoever finds it first or reads it first kind of gets it. So there's so many students, but a very, very small amount of opportunities, I would say. So that was kind of the least favorite thing about Hunter so far.
Yeah, I can understand, but I'm happy to hear you're able to sort of navigate that and find your own little cohort of friends and colleagues so that it's not that the competition isn't that heavy. So it's more of like a community and a collaborative sense. What about you, Dorina? Did you experience something similar to what Sophia experienced at Wagner, or is there something else that you didn't really like about college so far?
No, I didn't experience what Sophia went through, but just the essays. All my classes I had to write more than 5 essays, and I suck at them. Like I'm not the best, but I'd say that was my least favorite. Everything else was fine. Reading the books was fine, watching the movies and interpreting and answering questions was all fine, but the essays that was my least favorite part.
Yeah, I can totally see how that, especially it's a big jump from high school to college level work. It's a lot more intense. It's a lot more on your plate week by week, but I'm sure you're doing well. I want to know though, like what kind of resources does Wagner offer? Like, do you have like a writing center or tutoring center that
They
you've
have
used or that does help?
they have a writing center. They have a lot of kids. They'll even offer. I've had a lot of kids in my classes offer to help and tutor other kids with their essays and help them with that. Um, they have a lot of resources that you can use. All that I've been exposed to was the students helping each other and the writing center, but I know they have a lot more.
So we actually, the good thing is that we have a resource for any subject that you basically could think of. So we have a writing center for students who just want to get their essays checked. You could bring up your research paper, an essay, whatever it is, and there'll be someone there that could totally look it over for you, read it, give you advice. And it's a mix. It's more student led, but there are also some grad students there or current undergrad students as well. So it's kind of a mix, and it's diversified in terms of skill level. So if you kind of want an opinion writing or your personal statement for a school, you can get someone from a grad student who's doing their master's in English or something like that. And then we also have a math center where there's regular tutoring, or if you ever just want to stop by for a really quick question about something, there's that. We also have a science center, which is kind of the same as the math one, where if you have any questions, you could always pop in. But there's also we have these things called SI sessions. So there are student sessions where there's a student from a higher level class who's either taking biochem or something harder than a class that you're looking for help in. So for us, the most popular thing was the biology one, because bio at Hunter is notoriously difficult and sometimes impossible, because it's a weed out class to limit the amounts of kids, because like I said, it's a school where thousands and thousands of kids are going in pre-med, but then not all of them are getting into medical school. Some of them change their majors, some of them change career paths, so they use bio as that weed out class. But to help us, they offer older students who got A's or better in the class. They lead a tutoring session once a week, and there's multiple people for it. So you kind of just log in. We had it ours online, but we just went over the material that was covered the previous week in class, and it was more of expanded upon from what our professors gave us. And we were able to engage with one another, and the tutor, they gave us sample questions and we answered them through a poll, so it kind of stimulated a little bit of the practice. So that was really, really cool, just because the professors didn't give us any sample questions. It was just the chapters that we needed to learn, and we had to learn them on our own and read the textbook. So it was nice to go and see a similar style of questions that we would on exam days. But there's also other types of resources as well, in terms of counseling or whatever other help you may need besides academic.
Yeah, wow, wonderful. Thanks for sharing. I'm happy that you were able to get that support from students. I know from my own experience, sometimes it is like your upper classmates or even like your current classmates that are better able to explain it, sometimes even better than the professor, just by the nature of things. So I'm happy you were able to get that support. And Jessica, what about you? What resources
Um,
were at St. John's?
so at St. John's, we had a writing center also, and you could do it in person or online. There was career services to help you with things also. We had a student success center where there would just be different tutoring sessions at different times. So maybe math tutoring or science tutoring, it depended on what people needed. That was like a place to go to for studying and help in different subjects. The professors were also always available. They had office hours and they were always in their offices at that time. So you could show up at any time during that time and be like, hey, you went over this thing. I'm still really confused. Can you help me? Or can we go over my test together? And they were always willing to help. And then also, like Sophia said, like we also had like counseling and wellness services. And then you didn't have to go to like the wellness center or for like official counseling. A lot of people became close to different faculty members. Like I know if I needed help, I ended up becoming a big part of campus ministry. So I'd go to the campus minister, his name was Father Tree, and I'd be like, hey, Father Tree, I'm having this problem. Come help me. And he'd sit there with us and go through it all. So there's always people around to help you depending on what you need.
It's really great to hear. Thank you. Kind of want to like shift gears a little bit to talk more about like your actual experiences, like in terms of study habits. I know that's a big issue. Like there's a huge, like I mentioned before, it's a huge difference between high school and college, especially undergraduate and graduate level types of studying. So what study habits have you found have worked for you that you sort of kept through high school that worked in college, and what study habits did you end up discovering worked better in college?
I definitely found that studying with friends was helpful, depending on the friends, because you have to make sure that it's everyone's willing to stay focused. That's something that I found high school, college, grad school, it worked at all times. My study habits did change throughout because in high school I went to San Island Tech. So that was a lot of academics, very difficult and rigorous. And then once I got to St. John's, my core classes, at first I was actually finding slightly easier than tech. So that was a change for me. I was like, wait, I don't need to stay up until midnight studying every night, reviewing everything. And then I got to grad school and then I had to get back to the studying until midnight. But also writing things out helped me a lot personally, like rewriting my notes, writing out handwritten study sheets, everything by hand. Even in class, I find handwriting notes helps me retain it a lot better than typing. Some classes I had to type just because there was no way I was able to keep up by handwriting. But whenever possible, I definitely found that writing helped me study a lot better than typing. Also, Quizlet. Quizlet helps with everything. You'd be surprised how many things are already pre-made. And also, if you make like a deck or a test or a quiz or anything for your upcoming test, a lot of times if you share with your classmates, they'll be more willing then for the next test to say, oh, hey, I made one now. I'll share this with you. So it's really helpful if you like work together and share resources.
Yeah, that's great. As someone who went to college myself, I can definitely say Quizlet is a very great resource.
I like studying at night, and I've always done that since like middle school, high school. I've always waited until 8, 9 o'clock to do homework because that's when everyone else in my house is asleep, and I'm in the living room by myself, and it's just me. And I'm gonna keep that because it works the best for me out of everything that I've tried. I still, like Jessica said, handwritten notes. I still rewrite everything. I have an iPad and a pencil with that, but I'll try to rewrite everything on a piece of paper and pen. Graphs. I've ever since I took bio in the fall, I've had to make so many graphs for that class, and that has really helped me. So I'm gonna keep those. Maybe studying with friends, I would drop unless it's a friend that, like me and Sophia, we've studied together and we've accomplished a lot together, but with certain people, I wouldn't be able to. So it really depends on who I'm doing it with.
Yeah, what about you, Sophia? What study habits have worked for you?
I kind of agree with what everyone said before about being in a friend group, but then I can also vouch for the fact that it definitely has to be the right people. I have the past semester I met up with one of my friends, and when we were studying together, it kind of didn't really feel like studying. I felt like I was being lectured by them instead of it being collaborative where we're kind of just going through the ideas together and expanding upon them. So that was not effective at all, and I definitely would have been more productive if I maybe like pre-made flashcards or something and then we could have went through something together. But I would definitely say make sure you're surrounded by people who you know you can collaborate with and build upon, and that you're not stopping each other from studying. Or like it has to be a mutual kind of agreement that, you know, hey, we're going to go through chapters 1 through whatever and then make a plan and then stick to it, because sometimes it's just not very effective. Then I also really like flashcards because I like to do active recall, especially in courses where you're bombarded with a lot of information and material on a weekly basis. So after a class, if it's a lot of material, I would, especially in a class like biology where a lot of things are memorization and there's vocabulary that you have to remember. So I would make some flashcards, and on the back I would just bullet point the major things that I need to know. And then as I'm kind of reading through them throughout the day, if I ever think of something else, I'll highlight it on the flashcard and then I'll do a little annotation on the side to add to it. And I like to keep doing that until I see the topic on the card and I can just recite the whole entire theory behind it without having to look at the card. So I like to do that for active recall. And I also have an iPad and I do take some notes, but I found that I don't write as quickly on the iPad just because I'm not fully used to it yet. So I definitely like handwriting things a lot better. But I did have some textbooks on there and I liked highlighting and annotating in the margins. And then I used my annotations to write out more like expansive notes to kind of go over that. So I like that for classes where it's more memory based. But then for classes like chemistry or math, definitely for math, I liked to do practice problems. And my professor for calc in college was really, really great because she would give us a lesson. We had the textbook, which I found an online version, and we would go along with the textbook. She would show the problem on her screen, and then I would copy it into my notes, and then I would just kind of go back and redo those problems and do different varieties of them as well. And then I found myself to kind of understand it better, you know, as opposed to writing notes about like what is an integral. I would just do the integral problem, and that helped so much more. So my biggest thing would definitely be active recall, because then that saves you from having to chunk all that information one night before the test. And then practice problems, because the more you practice, the more you're used to the material.
Yeah, those are all some really great strategies. Thank you all for sharing. I kind of want to add one of my own strategies that worked for me when I was in undergrad, depending on some of the classes, like specifically like for bio, was like actually reading the textbook beforehand. Like most of the time, professors, they'll in their syllabus they'll have an outline of what chapters or what pages you'll be reviewing or doing in each week of class. So I would find that reading or just even like browsing through, like just seeing like the little overview or like the little headings in the textbook helped me just be prepared for what we were learning in class the next day or even the later on that day. And that so then like when my professor would mention something, I'd be like, oh yeah, I read about that. That sounds familiar. And then also, of course, like start like reviewing my notes like at least once a week so that I wouldn't have to cram everything the night before. That's something that really worked for me. And then also a lot of diagrams, especially for like any like processes like in chemistry or biology, those also helped sort of condense everything in a way that was very easy to visualize. And like on your point, I know you mentioned, Sophia, that you had that one professor in calculus who really helped. I want to hear if you guys have any like favorite classes, and if any of your favorite classes were because of a specific professor, if it was the way they taught or the way they approached the lesson or the topics. We can start with you, Sophia.
For me, I took calculus in high school and I took the AP test, but for my advisor told me that since I already know the material, it would be better if I took the class one more time again, just because of it was a calculus one and then calculus two sequence. So she felt that the college class itself would prepare me better and it would also help boost my GPA since I already took the class in high school, so I know most of the material. And I'm really glad I did that just because it ended up being a breeze for me. And I used some of my high school notes because I had a really great teacher for that. But that was one of my favorite professors in college because she was very, very straight to the point. I don't really like it when a professor is kind of, when you need help and the professor is digging around or just making things more complicated than they already are. If we ever had a question with our homework, the teacher would say, okay, which number is it? And she would go to that exact question. But because we did all online homework, it was system generated problems. So some of us had different numbers, but she would take that exact problem, do it in front of the class, and help you understand why we're doing it this way. And it made it so much easier because I'm looking at the exact question where I need help. And it wasn't, her asking me, well, what do you think? And it's like, I didn't know, that's why I'm asking. So I really, really liked that. And it was one of my most enjoyable classes so far, just because the expectations were laid out. It was in the syllabus. We had a week by week breakdown, what we needed to do. We had the deadlines for all of our assignments. We had weekly quizzes, which at first I thought it was going to be a little bit annoying, but then I actually appreciated them just because it tested us on everything we did that week and it kind of made sure we knew what we were doing. And if you were studying along the way, it was a really great way to boost your overall average. And I just really liked that the expectations were extremely clear. There was nothing hidden, nothing that you didn't know about. And it was just perfectly laid out. She made herself very available. She had office hours once a week, but on top of that, she logged into the Zoom class half an hour before we started and took any questions or any homework help. So I really appreciated that. And then one of my other classes that I really liked was art history, which started out as a general requirement for me, but now it's what I'm minoring in because I needed some extra credits. And I really like the art history department at Hunter just because the professors are very knowledgeable and they really truly want to make sure that they know that you're doing okay. So both professors that I've had made expectations very clear as well. We were tested on the material that we covered, so there were no surprises. Like in other classes, sometimes you're given a handout of what you need to know, but then the teacher tests you on something completely different. So for these classes, I liked how everything was outlined and whatever we covered during the Zoom lecture was on our test. And those were more written exams. All of our exams were essays, and it was also more of your own choice of what you wanted to write about. So we would get a final prompt about, like write about this and this art movement or write about this and this author, not author, artist, sorry. And we basically just had the freedom to pick what we wanted to within that category. And I really, really liked that as well. They were very stress-free classes for me personally.
Yeah, that's very cool. I had like a similar experience. I had to end up taking an extra. I had like a empty like credit hole that I needed to fill. I mean, I should say, and I ended up taking an abnormal psych class, which I thought was really interesting, just with the material. And then my professor, she was very funny and like sarcastic, and she made it a fun class. And I ended up afterwards minoring in psychology because of that class. So similar experience. And one of the fun parts was we got to like analyze. We were each assigned like in a group project a movie, and we had to analyze one of the main characters and sort of diagnose them with a psychiatric disorder. So that was cool. What about you, Jessica? What was your favorite class and why?
So two of my favorite professors, one was in my major, a professor that I had for like 5 different speech classes. Um, he made everything easy to understand. He went over everything so well. Like we would be given textbook chapters to read, but then it wasn't okay, you read the textbook, so now you must understand everything. It was okay, now I'm going to help you pull out what's the most important things from this chapter, what you need to know. And like for example, my very first class that I had with him was phonetics, which in a way is almost like learning another language at first because it's the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's a new alphabet. Some of it is the same as English, some of it is completely new, and trying to figure out what these word symbols are. But he made it fun. Like we would do at the end of a lot of classes, we would write a story in phonetics together. So everyone would take a turn going up and writing like 2 words at a time. And then by the last class, like at first we were using like really short words, so we didn't have to figure out like stress and all these things. But by the end, we just got so into it that we knew what we wanted to say for the story to make it crazy, where we had like Batman climbing a wall and like throwing a child or something. These stories got crazy and we knew how we wanted it to go. So now we were using longer words and really getting into all the parts of phonetics that you needed just because we wanted to have fun and be able to participate in this. So that was one professor that was great. And he was also always available for help for anything after class, before class. Before each exam, he would bring us candy and we would do like a review game, like Jeopardy style. And you'd go around the room. And if you got, whether you got it right or wrong, you got candy just because even though we're in college, we still deserved rewards. That's how he always felt. And then another professor that I loved was my philosophy professor. So for example, when I took him, I ended up taking him for 3 classes. Then we needed 3 philosophies. After my first one, I was like, philosophy's terrible. How am I gonna make it through 3 of these? And then for the second one I had to take, I think it was metaphysics. And the professor I had was awesome. He made it funny. He would make jokes about the philosophers and he made up stories to explain the different concepts. Like there was always like Bob and Jim like going places and doing different things. And then like we had team challenges, which was kind of like debates. So we would have philosophical debates, but we were like going at it with each other, like arguing and stuff and really getting into the concepts. And we didn't even know like why we were so engaged in this. It was just he made it fun, and because he knew it was a core class, everyone was required to take it. 90% of us were not philosophy majors, so instead of just lecturing on every single philosopher, he really had us actually like experiencing what they believed.
Yeah, that's really cool. That sounds so awesome. It's a great professor. Would love to have a class like that. What about you, Dorita? What was your favorite class?
I'd say they were all equal with each other. I really didn't have that one favorite. If anything, I'd say intro to psychology was maybe the one I was more interested in and the one I liked a little bit more, but it wasn't my favorite. Besides that, like they were all just pretty much equal with me. Like I wasn't too fond of all of them because they were all gen ed required classes, so it was just the majority of them were just reading books and writing essays on them, reaction papers.
Yeah, I hear that. Hopefully, I mean, well, you have a few more years ahead of you, so maybe you'll have that one professor or that one class that really like will have like a good memory and will like really like you'll keep thinking about it for years. I don't want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little more about what you guys do outside of school, outside of classes for fun, both through like your university or your college, and then also what are some fun things that you do to help sort of unwind after a stressful day? Maybe we can start with you, Dorina.
Um, well, through Wagner, nothing at the moment, but with I work on days that I don't have classes. I work at a dental office, so I like going there and just like unwinding everything and talking with the patients and just helping everyone and doing what I do best. And then at home I just relax and try to study as much as I can. Yeah. I mostly work and just go to school, so
Very nice. What about you, Jessica? What did you do to help unwind after a long day?
So through school, I got really involved in campus ministry, which I wasn't expecting because I was the type of kid who hated CCD all my life and was just like, I don't want to go to Catholic school. But then right before my freshman year started, I had joined this thing called Rondu Service Plunge. It was just like a 3-day thing. You got to go to campus early and then go do service projects. And I had signed up for that originally just because I knew no one going to the school. So I was like, oh, it's a way to make friends, meet other freshmen. But then I ended up really enjoying the service aspect and volunteering. So I became part of this club, SVDP, St. Vincent de Paul Society. And then I was working with that and doing service projects through them. Like we had every fall, we had this event, Kids on Campus. Sometimes Wagner would partner with us also, since Wagner College is down the block. And we'd invite kids from the neighborhood to come have like a safe Halloween, since some of the neighborhoods around there weren't the greatest. And it wasn't exactly safe for the kids to go walking around at night. So they'd get to come. It would be on like Saturday closest to Halloween or Friday. We'd have trick or treating and games and activities, and the entire campus would get involved. And then we did like monthly soup kitchens and midnight runs, and it was just really fun to like come together and like do these different things. So I went from someone saying, I don't want to be part of campus ministry, I don't want to deal with church stuff, to being the president of this club by the second half of my junior year. So that's what I did through school. And then outside of school, the main thing I like to do is read. Not the books that are required for class or the textbooks, but like romance novels and like YA, just fun, lighthearted reads to escape to worlds where you don't have stress of school.
Very cool. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I'm definitely someone that would like go home and just like unwind by either like curling up and reading a book or like going out on a walk. And then later, when I was in my junior year, like actually this summer of my sophomore year, I started working as undergrad research assistant. So that's like kind of like where I would go to unwind and just like go to the lab straight after class and keep my mind busy and not think about school or any tests or any stressful classes or assignments that were coming up. And how about you, Sophia? What do you do to sort of relax after classes, or what do you do for fun?
Um, well, when I'm kind of home, I like to every single night I try to go out for a walk with my parents and my sister, or we'll go to the park or something because I have a younger sister, so she likes to go and on the playgrounds, or and I'll walk around or do something like that. And then other types of working out as well. My dad, he cycles, so I got into that through him. So I mean, he's like super top notch, like competitive. I just kind of do it more as like a fun thing, or just riding around on the bike. And I like it because then it also just helps clear your head and you're not really focusing on school or work or anything like that. So I like to do that. But similarly to Dorina, I also work as a dental assistant in a dental office. So I picked up some more hours just because I'm more free now since I don't have any classes. And even though it's work, it doesn't really feel like work to me because I'm doing what I really like to do in the environment that I hope to be in the future. And just seeing the patients, interacting with them, just working with the doctors, or going and talking to my coworkers and other people that I work with. It's refreshing sometimes, especially after not seeing them as frequently for the whole entire school year, because I was busy with school, so I wasn't there that often. But I like to do that as well. And then in terms of things from my school, there wasn't really that many opportunities because I was online, but I got involved with the pre-dental society at Hunter, and I went to some of the meetings, and we had current dental students come and speak to us, or they had different kind of informative sessions about the DAT and resources for that. And there was an opportunity to apply for a leadership position on the executive board. So even though I was only a freshman, I kind of just jumped on that and said, you know what, hey, if it works out, it works out. But if not, no big deal. And I ended up interviewing with them, and I got a position as the event coordinator. So I haven't really done anything yet for it, just because the semester ended recently and we're working everything out. But I'm excited for that and kind of bring different opportunities in and kind of coordinate new events for that club in school as well. So I did that.
Yeah, wow, that's very cool, very impressive, and very exciting. Did you find it easy to join the Prudential Society? Like how do you join clubs at Hunter? How does that work? Do you have like a resource or like a go-to website or anything from the school that helps students see what clubs are available for their interests?
Well, from my experience, because everything was online, more Instagram pages were being created for different clubs, and then a lot of the prominent ones were there's a mentoring initiative that the school does from pre-health. And I was completely new to the school. I kind of had no idea what I was doing. So I joined one of their info sessions, and I ended up signing up for a mentor, and I got matched with someone who was also my mentor. He was pre-med, but he still gave me a lot of good advice and kind of like little tips and tricks on how to get through college. So that was something that was easy to get involved in, just because there were a lot of resources available for it. The school advertised it a little bit, and it's one of the bigger clubs, and so is the Pre-Dental Society. And that I also just got emails from the pre-health team in general, because one of the first things that they encouraged us to do was join the main list serve, where the head of the pre-health department, emails are sent out on her behalf. So we get things like from Weill Cornell internship opportunities, or dental assisting opportunities, or like research volunteer, anything like that. So that is also very, very available. It's just you, if you sign up for that, you're kind of set to go on all things pre-health from Hunter. Then there's also, if you just Google clubs and activities for Hunter College, you kind of have a list of all of the clubs that are available to the school. So that's pretty accessible as well. And then in terms of joining, I mean, anyone is always free to join. And the way we did it this past year was just either reaching out, emailing, asking for the Zoom link, and you can go to the weekly meetings, things like that. And then if you want to get involved and have a leadership position, I kind of just think that depends on what the club is looking for and what you have to offer. So everyone for pre-dental had to interview for the position. And I remember they were asked me specific questions, and we had to kind of write a little cover letter about why we feel we would be best fit for the club. So that was the process of kind of becoming a leader in a society club type thing. But everything was pretty accessible, and everyone was super welcoming and open, just wanted people to join, just because, especially for the freshmen, since it was our first year, none of us really knew each other or knew anything. So we joined and connected, and friend groups kind of developed from meetings like that.
That's really great. Thank you. I'd love to hear from Dorina and also Jessica real quick about your universities and how joining clubs and the campus activities works there.
Well, I haven't joined any clubs yet, but I have seen all throughout Wagner and their buildings papers where you can just sign your name up, and they'll all day I'll just be getting emails from everyone just about clubs and sororities and other societies that you can join just by emailing them or contacting them through the number that was given. They all seem welcoming, and they give a lot of information about each and every email. So, but I'm still trying to look for some clubs that seem interesting to me. But Wagner, it's all over. You'll just see, join this club, join that club, and you'll just have to write your name, and it'll say on the piece of paper like where to meet, what time, and you just go and you do your thing. Like it seems that it seems that easy, just like Sophia said. It Wagner doesn't make it hard, and they are all welcoming, every staff and student.
Very cool. Jessica, what about St. John's?
So at the beginning of every fall and spring semester, we would have a big activities fair. So it's always in the gym. It was a big event. There was like food trucks around, and every single club would have a table or like a booth of some sort. And then you could walk around. They'd have flyers. They'd have sign up sheets to sign up for their email list. So that was one of the main ways to find out about clubs. You could talk to like the e-board of each club and get to know them and see if you think it's a fit. Same thing for Greek life. But then also all clubs for the most part met. We have what was called common hour from 1:40 to 3:25 on Mondays and Thursdays. So you could just go into any building during that time and listen for voices and then just show up in a room and be like, hey, what club is this? What are you guys doing? And then they'd let you in. It wasn't anything complicated. Like pretty much you could just walk in anywhere and people would be like, yeah, hey, we're doing this. We have this food. Come join us. Hang out.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you all so much. I know we're almost just about out of time, but I do want to give a chance for all of you to like give some like last advice and like more or less like share like something you wish you knew before you started college and like any advice that you would like to share to our youth and participants.
Memorize your professor's emails or contact information because you're going to be needing them the entire time. I've emailed my professors more than I text my friends. They're going to be your new best friends. That's it. You're going to be asking them questions and you're just going to have conversations over email. You're going to be staying after class or going to class early and asking them questions. And it's just that's my advice. Just make sure that you know all their information.
Building off of that, definitely like just even keep like a note on your laptop or something with all your professor's information, and if you're still virtual, Zoom links. Something else that I found helpful, especially for the first few weeks of school, was keeping my class schedule like on my home screen, because constantly I'm just like, where am I supposed to be going? What room am I going to? I can never keep track of what building I'm supposed to be in at what time. It's not just when you're a freshman. This continues through senior year. You will still like forget where you're going. Like you'll know where the buildings and the classrooms are for the most part, but then you're not going to remember your schedule. It takes a while. And I'm sure you guys see that now, even in high school. So that's a big thing. And also just talk to people, especially your freshman year. Whether you're in person or virtual, if you're virtual, start a group meet with your friends and your classmates. Like make a group meet of people in your major who you find, and keep in touch. And then if you're in person, just go up to the person near you and just say hi and introduce yourself. Because most of the time, everyone's just afraid to make the first move. And everyone is looking for friends and just doesn't know how to find them. So just go say hi, introduce yourself and your major. When you're just starting out, that's the easiest thing. Whenever someone says, tell me about yourself, hi, this is my name, this is my major. Or like, this is what I'm thinking of majoring in. It's the easiest conversation starter.
Very true, very true. I can definitely second that. What about you, Sophia?
I would say I know that college is definitely a very, very stressful thing that I've, way more stressful than high school. And I tend to stress out in advance prior to there being any stress to worry about. And I kind of just realized that everything is going to work out in the end. There have been so many times where I was pre-stressing or stressing over things that were already out of my control. So, like if grades are already put in, or if it's the end of a semester, just close your laptop, log out of everything, put your books away, and just kind of breathe for a little bit, and it's all going to be okay. And there's always opportunities to make up for it in the future. You could take a higher level class and do good in it to show that you're academically capable, and it's just not worth to stress in advance. That's something that I definitely learned. And another big thing would be look at your syllabus on the very first day, mark up your planner or have a planner, calendar, just so that you're never missing any deadlines and that you're staying on top of everything, because some professors will remind you and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, our test is in a week," and then other professors won't. So it's you have a lot more responsibility now. There are no, reminders. So that's definitely something. And don't be afraid to get involved and try something new. I remember I was kind of hesitant about applying for a leadership position, especially since I've been to only a few club meetings and everything was virtual. So I didn't feel that I knew anyone from the club, just from the limited interactions that we had over Zoom. But I just went, tried, and said, listen, I'm a freshman. If it doesn't work out, I could try again next year. So it was something that ended up working out. So you really never know, and just all still have fun, even though you're studying, have fun in between all of those stressful moments.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. And just to highlight what Jessica also said in the chat, is to set reminders on your phone, calendar. You're always on your phone either way, so let it notify you of exams. That's definitely something I've done. And even your point earlier, Jessica, I definitely would like screenshot my schedule and have it be like my home screen for at least like the first 2 weeks every semester of every year, even until up to my last semester of college, because your classes are always changing. So that's something that's very helpful. But thank you all. Thank you, Sophia, Dorina, and Jessica, so much. You guys have really shared some gems with me today, and I appreciate you all taking the time. I hope everyone has a great evening, and thank you all to our audience and our viewers for jumping on and watching this. And I hope you all enjoy your summer.